Welcome back to 2K Way. Welcome back. I'm Paige. This is Peyton. She's my sister.
Hi.
Or brother. And we used to be 2,000 miles away from each other. We are currently in the same room now. Not staying that way forever, which is why we're keeping 2K away. Yeah. We talk about all kinds of creepy and fun things. Like true crime.
Murder and the macabre.
Yes. And today, because let me figure out what I'm saying. Today, I'm talking about not necessarily true crime. It kind of goes into true crime, but we're talking about kind of a creature almost. So I'll just get right into it.
Get to the program
because
page. You're like,
at the end, my two stories that go with the creature, though, truly are true crime. So today, I'm talking about changelings. So switching it up a smidge and kind of a couple stories that go along with the changeling. So folklore of the changeling is found all over Europe. And for the most part, it originates in Ireland. But, I mean, there's German folklore about it. There's Spanish folklore about it. It's kind of found all over the place. While they differ slightly in certain aspects, the gist of it is basically the same. A person, mostly children, is swapped with a look-alike. So, according to the legend, it's mostly fairies, but also sometimes trolls. I've seen some where it's trolls as well, but for the most part, it's fairies that do this.
Well, I've not heard the trolls because I know fairies are a very, very big part of like Irish and like Celtic folklore. Like, very big part.
Yeah.
And like I know a lot of some more older people that are even still alive today like will like not go in fairy circles and anything that looks remotely similar to something that a fairy might be making. I don't know.
And
I don't know anything much about them.
Way back when, fairies were not really seen as these wonderful, beautiful, cute little things that they are depicted as today. They kind of used to be
like evil
dicklings. Yeah. So, like I said, according to legend, it's mostly fairies, but sometimes it's trolls that are the culprit. They steal the children. The reasons that a child would be taken, it could be one of a few things. They could either just enslave the child, so the child is their slaves forever.
Rude.
Or they want their child that they replace the kid with to receive the love of the humans and make them grow up as a human, which is
also rude.
It is, but they could take them for malice, of course, because again, fairies could be shitheads. Or it's even believed that fairy children need the nourishment that babies get from a mother's breast milk that they wouldn't get from their fairy mothers, so they will swap their kids out and starve the human child. Because fairy babies need human breast milk apparently. I don't know. So, those are some of the reasons that they could take your kids.
Sorry that I'm laughing.
I'm
so
not.
Hard. I mean, not to be... Look. I'm not a child person, and my humor is really dark.
That's why this is so funny to me.
Exactly. So I'm sorry if I ever offend anybody with comments or the fact that I'm laughing when I probably shouldn't be laughing.
But this is why I wanted to do this case. When I say case, but this type of episode today because this is something that's a legend, folklore, things like that. So we can have a lighter episode since the last two were pretty brutal.
Yeah, because this is why we do stuff like this. We love true crime, but every
Yeah.
so often we like to throw in some creepy, like, haunted place, a little folklore, a little this, little this, little that, you know.
So it was also said that fairies only take the most beautiful children because they're vain little fuckers. So they went on to say that it's like if they have like light eyes, light hair, fair complexion.
So they're racist.
A racist, vain little shitheads.
Like, so they like the blonde hair, blue eyes.
Apparently,
Were they named Adolf Hitler by any chance?
Maybe. Could have been. Maybe that's where Hitler got it.
Maybe that's where he came from.
No.
Well, he was a little evil dickling.
I mean, he was. So, the child could be swapped out for either a fairy child. This would be to get the nourishment that they needed. Because, again, apparently they're fairy mothers. You couldn't provide for them. I don't know. They could be swapped out for an elderly fairy. And the reason why was so that they would be able to live out the rest of their life loved and cared for in comfort.
Okay, now that's
sweet.
Sweet and
but you
precious.
still abducted a child.
It doesn't matter how nice it sounds in theory.
Right.
You still kidnapped.
It's still kidnapping, no matter how you look at it. While you get a little, aw, it's still like, wait a second. Whatever. Or they could swap them out for a literal log made to resemble the child that would just make it seem like the child is just withering away and dying. Or they put a spell on the log to make it look like the kid. And eventually the spell wears off so that the parent realizes, oh, this isn't my child. This is a log.
I didn't realize that fairies had Harry Potter level magic.
Well, I guess it depends on the fairy. Depends on where you are.
If they've graduated from Hogwarts or...
Correct.
Okay.
So when I read that, I was like, a log. Like wood. Like, would they make it try to look like Pinocchio? Or what are we doing? He wants to be a real boy.
That's literally what I meant. Like, no, Mom, I'm a real boy.
Well, I'm even picturing a log with like green moss on it and stuff, and they just toss that in the kid's bed. Like, well, good enough.
Why am I imagining... Who's that character from Ed, Ed and Eddie with that plank of wood with the face on it?
Oh my gosh. I haven't thought about that show in forever.
That's what I'm imagining.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or from Bob's Burgers.
I just watched that episode last night. The woodchuck.
I'm really sorry if you don't get either reference.
Yep, that's pretty much what they did.
Did they even put googly eyes on it?
Maybe. I mean, you would have to, because otherwise it'd be too obvious. So, a child's look or demeanor can give away if they are a changeling or not. They can be described as being grotesque or deformed in a way.
That happens when you're a log, too.
It does. They can be sickly and not seem to grow at all.
That's usually if they're the old changelings, correct?
No.
Okay.
No, if you have a sickly child, you're a changeling.
Ah.
Yeah. They might have distended bellies or weird long limbs.
I've heard that one about the distended bellies.
There was also one where I saw that they used to say this about kids like that, like wouldn't move or something. They had the touch of the fairy. Basically, their limbs didn't work. I don't know. I didn't look much farther into this because then I saw, or they could even have a beard and long teeth.
Yeah, I've seen that too. And
so if your child, your 5-year-old grows a beard, he's probably a changeling and he's a fairy.
At what point do you think like the mom taps out officially, like starts noticing some weird stuff, like, oh, his belly's really distended. Oh, that's strange. Like, like his teeth have gotten a lot bigger. I don't really understand that. And then at one point, like, is it this short old man with a long beard where you're like, wait a second.
Hey, my 5-year-old has a 5 o'clock shadow. Is that normal?
You know what I mean?
So they could also have an insatiable appetite and may seem wise beyond their years. So, if your kid's smart,
watch out.
He's a changeling.
Well, I already know. So I was sick a lot and I ate a lot.
Are you kidding? An insatiable appetite? That was me.
That's true.
I ate literally everything all the time.
So we were both switched out is what I'm saying.
We were. Mm-hmm. Yep, sure were. So if you think your child displays any of these traits, here's what you can do. These are a few tests, and I have heavy quotations around tests that you could perform that would prove if they are a changeling or not. So here you go. The most common method that seemed to be the same in pretty much all cultures, I saw some form of this. And it is, you can confuse it or make it laugh by boiling something in an eggshell. I had to read that so many different times to make sure they all said boiling something in an eggshell. Sure did. So crack an egg, empty it, take that eggshell.
So you can't just boil the egg?
Nope.
Okay.
No, you boil something else in the eggshell. Like dinner or water. I don't know what dinner you're having with an eggshell.
Maybe an egg?
Maybe, but I don't know. So boil something in an eggshell. They would think that it was so ridiculous and start laughing and say something. It was different in every culture again, but they would say something to the fact of, oh, I've never seen that in all my years, or something along those lines. And then their fairy parents would bloop, show up, take the fairy kid, and there's yours back. Surprise. Or it would either make them laugh like that, or it would trick the changeling into revealing its true age, like 500 years old. I don't know how that would work.
What? This has reminded me so much of Robert the Doll. Of, okay, so if he moves to tell you cannot take a picture of him, who did he move for?
Right? Right? Yep.
Also, so if the changeling admits that, how does it go? Is it like, ha ha ha, that is so funny in my 500 years that I've been alive?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. It pretty much sums it up. And then the fairy parents would be like, bloop.
Shit.
He's laughing.
Damn it, you caught us. Oh, I peeked a little bit.
So another way that wasn't abuse, because we'll get to that in just a second, was to care so well for the kid that the fairy parents would just give you back your kid since you were treating theirs so well.
So then you're stuck with 2 kids?
No. They'd take theirs back.
That makes no sense.
They'd swap them out again.
That makes no sense.
You're right, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's a changeling, Peyton. It's not supposed to.
I'm so sorry. I was out of line.
You were. But then on the other hand, you could simply put the kid in the oven. If they didn't disappear before being burned, then congratulations. You just baked your child.
Okay, now it's reminding me of the witch trials. Like, hey, if you tie up this woman and then throw her in a lake and she doesn't drown.
You just killed an innocent woman. Yup.
Okay.
Except this time it's children. Your own children, not even somebody else's kid. The one you birthed. So, you could also try to put them over an open fire in the fireplace. And if the child was a changeling, it would simply fly up the chimney screaming, and then magically your kid would just appear safe and sound in your house.
Okay.
So I wish I was kidding about all of these, but there are so many cases where people did this. So many cases.
Oh, my God.
Or since fairies were obviously scared of iron, don't know who found that out, but obviously they're scared of iron, you could heat up an iron shovel and put your baby on it. And if it was there long enough, the fairies would give you back their child. And again, if another baby didn't show up, then you knew for sure that you just tortured and possibly killed your own kid. People did this.
Oh, I believe it.
But wait.
This goes back to just people doing horrific and crazy shit for so long.
There's more.
Oh, I'm sure.
You could also bathe your kid in water laced with foxglove, which is poisonous to humans.
Poisonous.
Yep. So there was a woman who actually tried to do this to her son, and she actually just ended up drowning him. So,
yeah, no shit.
Yep, sure did. She was tried for murder, but was acquitted because she convinced the jury that she genuinely thought her child was a changeling. That actually happened.
Who acquitted her?
Yeah.
I'm yelling so my mouth is not straight in the mic. Was it a judge or a jury?
It was a jury.
Oh my God.
That actually happened.
Oh my God.
Yep. She genuinely thought her child was a changeling and convinced the jury of it. So they're like, yeah, you're right. You know, you're not guilty. Not guilty. Honest mistake. Yep.
I think that they should throw her in a river.
Laced with foxglove.
Yeah.
And lava. Just boiling.
Actually, you know what?
Boiling water.
Where was this? Do you know?
I don't know. I think it was Ireland.
They got volcanoes in Ireland. They can throw her in there, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
There's volcanoes everywhere. I would assume.
I've never seen one.
I haven't either. So,
not in person anyway. Obviously, I've seen pictures. I don't want people to think I've never opened a book.
Because a book is the only place that would have pictures of volcanoes.
Obviously.
Okay. Anyway. So what can you do to prevent your child being taken by fairies? So let's take let's figure out preventative measures. So again, since the fairies are scared of iron, you can simply put some iron tool next to their bed, like open iron scissors, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've literally heard that.
And they'll stay away.
And some people even still do that.
Yep. Open. They have to be open, though. You can't just have closed scissors.
Why open?
They have to be open.
Why?
Because they have to be.
Why?
Because the fairies will stay away if they're open.
Give me a reason.
Because they'll stay away.
Okay.
I can't give you any other reason other than you just have to believe me.
Okay.
They also thought if your child was baptized, they wouldn't get taken. So those were the people who thought it was actually the devil switching out your kids.
And not fair. Well, I mean, there is, in some folklore, depending on where you're from in the world, they do specifically say that fairies aren't necessarily of the devil, but they're like a part of.
Well, Martin Luther was the one that actually started that thought.
Oh, really?
Where it was the devil that switched out your kids. And if you baptize your kids, they wouldn't get taken.
Interesting.
Yep. So if you have to be away from the nursery for any amount of time, lay a pair of the father's pants across the crib, and the fairies can't take them.
Why the father?
I don't know.
Okay.
You just have to believe me.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, an easy thing you could do is just have your child constantly watched and never leave them. That could be an option.
Yeah, but that's exhausting.
Exactly. So if you don't have any time for that, you can just have an ugly child. It's easy. I wouldn't have gotten taken. I was an ugly kid.
You were an ugly kid.
You'd have been taken in a fucking heartbeat.
I would have been.
I would have. They would have always had
I
me.
was a pretty kid. You were.
I was not.
You really were.
I had the ugly duckling stage for approximately probably like 18 years.
Yeah.
The first 18 years of my life.
Yeah, you finally really grew into it after you became an adult.
Right. Yeah. So
you're still fine.
Right? So what actually happened was that most of the time when someone had a child that had some kind of deformity, it was easier to believe that their child was switched with this child that wasn't normal. So some of these deformities or diseases that people speculate now that made people think that they had a changeling was this is just some of them. Spina bifida, cystic fibrosis, progeria, Down syndrome, Williams syndrome.
It could literally be anything.
Hurler syndrome, Hunter syndrome, autism, and cerebral palsy. So autism, definitely that would make sense. I mean, all of them would make sense for them to think, oh, this is not a normal child, simply because there are some forms of autism where the child or person just is mute, essentially. They don't talk or didn't move that much. They had a touch of a fairy. And clearly they were a changeling. They were swapped out. It was easier to say that than actually deal with your child that has some kind of, in their eyes, deformity.
Yeah.
So they would also think that if you were left-handed, had weird birthmarks, and were sick all the time, you were a changeling. So
basically, if there's anything remotely wrong with your child.
Yep.
Got swapped.
Yep.
Goodness.
Well, the other thing that was actually super awful that people think that way back, like 1600-ish, when times were super tough for people, if a family had multiple children, all of those children had to work, obviously, whether it be on a farm or something along those lines.
That's what you did. You had a shit ton of kids and they'd work on your farm.
Yes, but if one of those kids had a heavy appetite and ate all the time, and you couldn't afford to really feed the kid, it's a changeling. It was essentially an excuse to kill their child to have one less mouth to feed. So
people have done some crazy horrific shit. Humans
great.
Are kind of the worst.
Pretty much.
Not kind of.
They are. 100% confirmed they're the worst.
Absolutely.
Just as a whole breed.
Dogs are way better.
They honestly are. We don't deserve them.
No.
So, like I said earlier, it wasn't only the children that could be switched. It was thought that if you were a new mother or a newlywed, and if you were pretty, again, because they're vain, you could be taken and switched as well. I'm not sure really about the newlywed part. I don't know why they would have taken newlyweds. But the new mothers were taken to basically be a constant food supply for fairy babies. I know.
Look, I don't want to offend anybody, because breastfeeding, like, obviously you need to feed your baby. And I'm not one of those people that'll be like,
and it's a wonderful way
"Ew,"
to do that.
And it's a wonderful way for the baby to get nutrients. And I'm not one of those people that are like, ew.
Put your boob away.
Yeah, put your boob away. We're in public. No, you're just feeding.
Absolutely not.
You're feeding your baby. Why would I be upset about that? But I think.
However, do not want to do that.
I think it's the grossest thing.
For somebody else to do that, do it. It's awesome. I commend you for it, because
I would
no
never.
fucking thank you.
No, because and again, if you are out in public, I am not one of those people that are like, ew, gross, I'm offended, because you're feeding your baby. I would never say a damn thing, but at the same time, I'm like, ugh.
Just because I don't want children.
I'm like, oh, I'm like covering my chest. I'm really sorry if that offended anybody, but we mean it with love.
Because again, whoever can do that, and
I commend you.
Seriously,
I can't.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I just don't want to do it.
You continue feeding your babies.
Always.
In public.
But not too much, because they could be a changeling.
Yeah, watch it.
Watch how much you're feeding them. So, this now leads me into one of the most well-known changeling cases. So, Bridget Cleary is who this was about. She was born in 1869 in Ireland. Nothing's really known about her early life up until she married her husband, Michael Cleary. So, her maiden name was actually Boland. But she's always known as Bridget Cleary.
I thought you were going to say Bolton. Like Michael Bolton?
No, not Bolton.
Okay.
Bolden.
Okay.
Bolden. So she married Michael in 1887. She was 18. I think Michael was 10 years older than her. So I think he was around 27, 28-ish. So she was honestly an independent woman. She made dresses and hats. She was a wonderful seamstress.
Go Bridget.
She was an apprentice for a while, and then ended up being able to open her own business, essentially, in making dresses and hats.
What year was this?
They got married in 1887. So...
Oh.
Yeah. So in
Bridget.
The end of the 1880s into the 1890s, she was doing a pretty damn good job.
Doing her damn thing.
She was. So at the first part of their marriage, though, they did live apart simply because of his job, I guess. And I guess she was living with her parents? Question mark.
Yeah.
He was I don't remember exactly what he did. Cobbler. He wasn't a cobbler. Something with starts with the C. Doesn't matter.
Carpenter?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. So the couple never actually had any children. And they were married for a total of 8 years. So back in the late 1800s.
Oh, they're
it
like,
was kind of strange.
Why haven't you had children?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But in 1895, Bridget got sick with, they now think either like pneumonia or bronchitis. And without modern medicine, she wasn't really getting better.
Yeah.
It was kind of on the downward spiral there for Bridget, unfortunately.
Honestly, it's crazy to think that, because penicillin wasn't invented till like the 50s, I think.
I don't know.
Isn't that crazy that like in 1940 you could cut yourself and die?
I mean,
It's horrifying.
yeah. So they even called in a priest at one point in time.
Oh no.
Yep. It was pretty bad. So then her husband got it in his head that this sickly Bridget was actually a changeling.
Idiot.
Yeah.
No.
So the fairies left this changeling that's all sickly in Bridget's place, and they took Bridget. And to get Bridget back, he had to do something. He convinced some of his neighbors and some of their family that she was a changeling. So they all basically...
my mouth is agape.
Yep. So they all basically tortured Bridget in her last few days. So they made her drink weird herbs in milk, like forced fed her this weird milk.
So they killed her, essentially.
Straight up they did, because then they also threw urine on her, because apparently that was a thing to figure out a changeling.
Guess what? That doesn't help anything unless you get stung by a jellyfish.
I don't even think that, isn't that been debunked as not...
I don't fucking know. I don't go to the ocean. I don't go in water. I don't swim.
You lived in LA and went to the beach.
Yeah, but I don't go in it.
Oh my gosh.
I just stay on the sand.
You're useless.
I dip my toes in and then I come right back out. I can't swim. What point is there for me to be in the ocean? Anyway.
Useless. So ultimately, they burned her alive. Because, if you throw them in a fireplace, if they're a changeling, that changeling is supposed to scream and fly up the chimney. So they burned her alive. Straight up.
Did they throw her in a chimney?
Murdered her. No, they just set her on fire. They poured shit all over her and set her on fire.
How's she gonna go up the damn chimney if she's nowhere near the damn chimney?
Think of what they're doing and what they're...
You know what? You're right. Why am I trying to...
I don't know.
Why am I trying to rationalize what they're doing?
I have no idea. There is no rationalizing any of this.
No.
There ended up being 8 total people, including family members of hers, even. Not just his families. Her family members, including her husband, convicted of her murder.
Good.
Yes. So
they were not
convicted. They were not able to convince the jury that she was a changeling.
Good. Fucking assholes.
Yep.
Wow.
So...
Sorry if that was a distant relative of yours, but they're assholes.
They murdered somebody. Of course they're assholes. Yeah. Regardless if they're related to people. Of course they're related to people.
Just saying.
Oh, okay. So that was Bridget Cleary's case. That poor Bridget, she was only, what did I say? What did I think?
She wasn't even 30 yet, was she?
95, so she was 27. They were married for 8 years. So 26, she was 26 or 27 when she died.
Wow.
Yep. So the more recent-ish, I say ish because it happened in the 20s. This well-known case is that of Walter Collins. There was a movie released in 2008 called The Changeling that starred Angelina Jolie as Christine Collins, who was Walter's mom, and told the story about her son's disappearance. So, while this movie doesn't actually have any supernatural aspect of it, like the lore of a changeling, it didn't mention it in the movie either, because it never even actually said the word changeling in the movie. It was just called Changeling. But it just goes along with this folklore because, Walter went missing, and there was another boy essentially exchanged in his place. So, it's such a crazy story, honestly. So, Christine raised Walter by herself in LA due to her husband or ex-husband, ? Don't know. He left her and ended up spending most of his life in prison. So he's a real good dude. Yeah. So she worked as a telephone operator, and again, this was back in the 20s. So she was doing well for herself, honestly, for being a single mom in the 20s.
And that's rare.
Honestly, yeah. So on March 10th, 1928, Christine had given Walter some money to go to a movie, but when she got home from work, he was nowhere to be found. He was 9 years old at the time. She searched all... What?
It's wild to think that at 9 years old,
our
mother would never do that.
No, here's some money, you 9-year-old. Go to the movie in LA by yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So, when we were 9, we could run around our block at home in our town of 150 people. And she still really didn't want us leaving the yard.
But don't cross the highway.
Right.
Stay on our block, but don't cross the highway, because our 150 populated town was so big.
Right. She searched all over her neighborhood, couldn't find him. The police searched everywhere for him as well, and they even searched the lake nearby, kind of just grasping at straws.
Yeah.
Didn't find him. The case went cold pretty quick because they literally had no leads.
Yeah.
He just completely vanished.
Mm.
So 5 months later, in August, a boy turns up in DeKalb, Illinois, saying that he was Walter.
Where exactly is that?
Up by Chicago-ish.
No.
Let me verify. Oh yeah, it's just outside Chicago.
Okay. So, verified.
Verified, just outside of Chicago. So the LAPD was contacted, and there was this big reunion planned because, we needed to make the LAPD look good, even though they shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Christine even paid for the kids' train ticket to get to LA, which I think I read was like $70. So
wow.
Back then, that was a lot of money to shell out for a single mom for this kid.
Isn't that about how much train tickets are now?
I don't know.
I don't know. I've never taken a train.
I was going to say, I don't take the train or a train. I don't know. So, when the train got to the station, the LAPD was there. Christine, of course, was there. And the press was there because this was like a big deal. Because everywhere across the country was covering Walter's disappearance. Christine was very, good for her, but it couldn't have been easy for her because she was literally doing everything she possibly could, calling everywhere, trying to see if any boys turned up anywhere.
Yeah.
So when the boy got off the train, Christine immediately said that this was not her son. The investigator that had been working the case, Captain Jones, told her, yes, it was. We know what we're doing. This is your son.
I think the mother would know, Mr. Jones.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Ooh.
She insisted that it wasn't Walter because he definitely looked a lot different. And Jones got more upset with her, saying that, well, they haven't seen each other in a long time. It's been 5 months. Who knows what Walter has been through? And that kind of trauma can change a person.
No.
So that could be why he looks different.
No. It's not been 20 years and he's a grown man.
No. That's why he looked different. Difference? Different.
Words are hard.
They are. So, and that, it changes a boy. All that trauma that he endured.
Fuck off.
When she still insisted that he had made a mistake and that he was not Walter, he told her that she was mistaken and that she should take him home and, I quote, try him out. And after a while, she would see that he was right and that he was her son.
No.
He literally told this woman to try out this boy to see if he fits. That's exactly what he did.
The LAPD back in the day was...
Oh, man.
Ooh,
buddy.
Because we're going to be covering some older Los Angeles cases. And, wow. Let's just say wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with the pressure of the police, plus the press being there, Christine did agree to take the boy home.
I'd have been like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Give me back my money.
She agreed.
Send this kid back to Illinois.
And there was even a picture taken of her and...
Do you have this picture?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a picture of her and the boy. She's like leaned down with him and stuff. He's got her arm around her. Yeah.
What was this boy's response to him going like, here I am, mother?
Yeah, he said, I'm Walter. This is my mom. Yeah. Just wait. We'll get into that.
Sounds like a small scam artist to me.
Just wait.
Okay.
So in the 3 weeks that she took care of this boy, she was like, fuck you, I'm going to prove that this is not my son. So she got it in writing. She had taken him to their dentist, and the dentist confirmed that this boy's teeth were definitely not Walter's teeth.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying that this boy, he'd never been to the dentist. They could tell. It's a dentist. They're going to be able to tell if something's been happening.
Yeah, they're like,
and there
you
was
got
like
shitty teeth.
And there were certain aspects of Walter's teeth that this kid didn't have that dental work probably wouldn't have fixed. And if it was, it wouldn't have been fixed in 5 months. Right. Like that kind of thing. Yeah. So he put it in writing for Christine, and she took this evidence. I think she had gotten some other evidence as well. But she took it to Captain Jones after 3 weeks of having this boy at home. So instead of doing what he should have done and looked at all the evidence and listened to the mother, he completely ignored all of that and accused Christine of being a bad mother and making a mockery of the police force, saying that she was trying to embarrass them.
You piece of shit. You absolute piece of garbage.
And I tell you what, the movie, it could get a little boring in some parts, but overall it was a pretty good movie, The Changeling. Angelina Jolie, she was phenomenal.
She's amazing
in that movie, to be quite honest. The dude who plays Captain Jones, I forget what his name is. I've seen him in some other stuff, but you want to just punch him in the fucking face, because this scene in the movie, what he says to her, it's just like, oh, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
This makes me want to like go to his grave and just like slap him. Can I slap the ground so hard that his corpse feels it? Is that possible? Because I don't really want to dig him up. That sounds bad.
But I just want to slap the ground.
I just want to slap him.
Seriously. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this just proves back then, you woman, you don't know anything. We know better because we're the police. We know better than you, the mother.
You know what? No matter how much I love like older eras and some of like the history from that, I would have never survived. I would have been burned at the stake for being a witch or something, because they would have been like, I'm sorry, you outspoken evil thing, you.
Yep. Same. Ooh. Yeah, same. And in the movie, he even says something along the lines of, no, you're just trying, you enjoyed those 5 months without him. You just want to be free again. That's what you're wanting to do.
Wow.
And then he goes further into, calling her a bad mom. You're just trying to embarrass us. You don't know. But, no, and she goes, and she's like,
yourself,
she goes, but I'm his mother. I know my son.
And it's really sad that she had to like protect herself.
And again,
like
this is in the movie.
Yeah.
But he says, yeah, but that's why you're too close to this. You're too emotionally attached to this, which is why your opinion essentially doesn't matter, because you're too close to this. We're the police. We're trained in these things. We have, we know what we're doing. This is your son.
Yeah, but she still had to try, like, the real mother had to still try and convince the police, no, this isn't my kid. And it's very, very awful that she had to keep defending herself.
Yep.
And being like, no, I think I would know. I raised him. This is not my child.
So when she brought this evidence to them and he was like, no, you're just trying to embarrass the police force, he actually had her committed to the psychiatric ward at Los Angeles County Hospital under the Code 12 internment, which was something that the police used when someone was being difficult or inconvenient to them. They would have them fucking committed under this Code 12.
Welcome to 1920 Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She was being inconvenient. So, we'll have her committed.
Let's commit her, yeah.
Nobody's going to listen to a crazy woman.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to listen to the police.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She had to endure 10 days of bullshit from this place because, I mean, let's be real. It's 1920s in a psych ward. It's not what it should have been.
No. Those are some horrific places.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, awful. So,
because even some facilities now are not great, but in the 20s, nope,
they could do all kinds of things.
Well, that and you also have to understand, like, some of the people that would take in people that like needed like mental help would also take in like vagrants and criminals and things of that nature as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows what she endured?
So, while she was there, Jones apparently actually questioned the boy. Because up to this point, he just says, I'm Walter Collins. They're like, great, let's bring you back to your mom.
Did they even look at, like, maybe a picture of him?
Just wait. So, Jones, apparently he questioned the boy. He finally admitted to being 12-year-old Arthur Hutchins Jr., who had run away from his home in Iowa. When someone had mentioned that he kind of looked like the boy missing from LA, he fucking ran with it. Because
Just gave you a little
he thought
shithead.
this would be his way into the movies and meeting his favorite actors. I mean, he's a 12-year-old boy.
My God.
He's like, hey, cool. Maybe this kid, it's going to LA? Sure, I'm Walter Collins.
Boy, where are your parents? Go home.
I actually think that his mom had died, so he was in the care of his dad.
Oh.
So dad's not watching the kids.
Well, clearly.
I don't know.
He's probably at work. Well, he's from Iowa. I'm sure he's working farms or some shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Doesn't have time to watch those
well,
kids.
and poor Arthur Arthur Hutchins, it's Iowa. There's nothing to do there, So he's like, cool, I'll run away. He ends up in DeKalb, and somebody's like, you kind of look like that Collins kid. He takes a look at the newspaper. Christine Collins. All right.
That's gonna be my mama.
That's my mom.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. So, Christine was released after this, once he finally admitted, because clearly we're going to just go ahead and take the word of the child instead of a mother.
No. It was the fact that the child was a boy. So it took...
Yep.
You know what? I'm not going to get on my soapbox.
But you're probably right.
Oh, I'm for sure right.
Yep, you're probably right.
Uh-huh. No, I'm right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'll strap myself down to not get on my soapbox just now because I'm like shaking being pissed. So I'm not going to get on there. This isn't about that.
It's not.
No.
This is about changelings.
It is.
And fairies.
Yes.
So once Christine was released, obviously the boy got sent back to Iowa.
Did she
She filed lawsuits against Captain Jones and the LAPD.
Absolutely.
And she fucking won.
Good.
Yes.
And
yes. And you know what? That's even better that she actually was able to win that.
Thank God.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that a woman won, that who they had committed won this suit against the LAPD.
I'm very surprised too, but I'm very glad that she did that, and obviously I'm ecstatic that she won.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Jones was ordered to pay her over $10,000 in 1929. Yeah. She never saw a dime of it.
No.
It was never paid because, well, he's a shitbag, so.
Right.
Never got paid. And I think she had taken him to court a couple more times to try to collect, but of course, he just never paid her.
Well, I know in some civil cases, I know now, maybe more now than way back when, but I know some people that will like personally sue somebody. It's not about the money. They just want like their name dragged. The reassurance of like, I won this. I know I'm never going to see a dime of what you owe me, but I won this. I'm
justified.
This is what I can get.
Yeah.
So
this actually is where it leads us into a sneak peek of Peyton's topic for next week.
Hey.
Do you want me to actually say what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't have it in here. I don't have it.
Well, next week, this is why... So Paige is doing it this week, and with this case, I'm doing next one.
Yes. Because, so after all of this bullshit with the LAPD, what ended up happening was a woman and her adult son were arrested for torturing and murdering young boys, and the mother ended up confessing to killing Walter, even though his remains were actually never found. Since a body was never recovered, Christine always held up hope until the day she died in 1964 at the age of 75 that Walter would somehow be found. So,
It's very sad.
I know. So, this woman and her son, that is actually going to be part of Peyton's episode next week, which is why she's doing it after this, because Walter's case ties into that.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing next week, you may or may not have heard of it. Now it's so old, but it's the Wineville chicken coop murders.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
It's a
doozy.
Wow, it's a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Super bad.
So I'm giving you a trigger warning for next week. Just go ahead and give it to you a week early.
We'll give it to you again next week because, shoo, it's no good.
It's real rough.
Again, why I wanted to do Changelings this week and talk about fairies. So like I said, Walter's case is not necessarily supernatural, obviously. This was just a little 12-year-old boy being like, hey, I can get to LA this way. But then there was Bridget Cleary's case, which is true crime because she was murdered by her family and her husband and neighbors because they thought she was this supernatural fairy type being because she was sick and dying.
But was there like folklore-ish that went around Christine and this
honestly, not really.
little kid?
Not really. Like I said, the only connection was the movie was called Changeling. And I just watched it, actually. I hadn't seen it. I knew it was out. Obviously, I knew when it came out. It was 2008 is when it came out, and I was in high school, so I just never saw it. So we just watched it, and like I said, not too bad. Never Changeling is never mentioned in the movie at all. It's just the name of the movie. Because a kid was swapped out for her child.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So there it is. There it is.
There it is.
So basically, moral of the story: if your kid eats a lot, or if they're weird looking,
or if it's sick,
or pretty, I mean, really, they could get taken by fairies. To prevent that, put open scissors next to their bed, or just make them ugly. Put some pants. Make sure put the dad's pants over the crib. They won't get taken. You're good.
But if you got two moms, don't you worry. We have other solutions.
Yes, we'll figure it out.
Don't you worry. Top tip of the day.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us this week for 2K Away. For a nice, fun little fluffy kind of.
At the beginning, it was fluffy. Kind of ended on a bad note, but...
Yeah. But I'm glad she shooed the shit out of her. I'm glad she shooed the shit out of the LA Peter. I'm glad I about did it again.
I tell you what, those words, man, they are so hard.
They really are.
Yeah.
I'm glad she sued the shit out of the LAPD, and she won.
Sally sells seashells. That's one of those type of tongue twisters.
See, I don't do shit like that because it hurts me. All it does is make me feel bad.
So instead, you just say, "I'm glad she shooed the shit out of."
Yes. Is there an issue?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining us this week. And again, like I said last week, I'm gonna pretty much keep reminding people until the day of. We are going to be we're gonna have a booth at the Montgomery County Bicentennial in Butler, Illinois.
Come see us if you can.
On what day again?
June. I'm gonna confirm that is the first Saturday in June. Yes, June 5th. That's the day.
That's the first Saturday of the month?
The first Saturday in June.
First Saturday in June. We are going to be, again, at the Bicentennial of Montgomery County in Butler, Illinois. We're going to be at the fairgrounds. And we're going to have a booth set up. Again, we're going to be going live on social media. And we're going to have a couple mics. And we want people, if you have a true crime story, that would be fantastic. Please tell us. Or if you know somebody who was involved in a true crime story.
Or some type of creepy, if you have a haunted house,
tell
if you
us
saw
your
a
creepiest
ghost.
story. If you've been abducted by aliens.
Or if your child was switched out for a changeling.
If you think the child that you have is not actually your child.
Make sure you treat it as best as you possibly can so that they'll
all the love.
Switch out your kid.
Yes, they'll give it back to you eventually.
Because remember, it could be an elderly fairy at the end of their life, and they need all the comfort and warmth from human mothers.
It could also be a piece of wood. So you best be good to that piece of wood.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus. But yes.
Come see us June 5th.
Come see us on June 5th. Again, tell us your creepiest stories. Tell us all your true crime stories. And we're going to have some merch to sell.
Don't know what yet.
I'm
not going to tell you until it's confirmed.
Yes. I'm pointing at the camera like I'm intimidating.
You're
like
fingering at the camera. I don't like that.
You can't do that to me while I'm like facing the mic. I'm gonna damage my equipment. If you would like to keep in contact with us and get updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Facebook at
2K Away.
And you can follow us on Instagram at
2K Away Podcast.
And we also have a Gmail if you'd like to contact us or suggest something.
2kawaypodcast@gmail.com.
And we have a YouTube channel where you can see our pretty, pretty pig faces.
2K Away Podcast.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. And we will see you all next week. And again, it's going to be the Wineville Chicken Coop Murders. So be prepared.
It's no good.
It's no good. Well, it's murder, so it's not good at all.
Well, yeah, there's that.
But, yeah. So get ready.
All right. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.